Now, is the MAGA movement splitting up? Are they heading for divorce? Are they just not getting along? They are having some setbacks lately. Some Silicon Valley donors who wrote seven-figure checks in 2024 are now sitting on their hands. And on X, conservative commentators like Tucker Carlson, with over 1 million followers, are getting torched, not by the left, but by other conservatives who call him the woke right. Is MAGA splitting into fractions that can't stand each other? Or is this the consolidation phase where movements purge the weak? Are the rhinos, are they getting rid of them all? Hey guys, welcome back. I've done some videos on the demise of the Dems, the rise of the independents, and now I'm doing a deep dive into what is going on in the MAGA movement and its base that seems to be splitting. Can the GOP survive? Please like, subscribe, share. I'm doing a lot of videos on breaking it down and coming up to the 2026 and what's kind of going on now and kind of predicting what's going to happen because the margins are so close at this point that independence, the last video I did on independence, can really sway the election at this point, especially if the MAGA movement is split. So I wanted to go through exactly where these woke right accusations are coming from and walk you through the 5 critical junctures that could crack 2026 wide open and tell you what it actually could make a break in this whole coalition versus what could keep it locked together. I just wanted to map this out to see clearly what is going on. First, you have this baseline, you have your woke right. And this started an awareness of some systemic injustice. Then the right weaponized it to mean performative progressive overreach, identity politics, culture, and the whole list with all the woke. As we were thinking, mostly we were describing as the woke left, and now they're calling it the woke right. But now this other phrase is coming along again, the woke right. And it really has 2 uses within the conservatives. One is that the conservatives who mirror left wing tactics, the boycotts, the purity tests, the deplatforming dissenters, the argument if the left cancels, we cancel back. And if they use institutional power, so do we. And a good example of that was the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. Then he was canceled for a couple days. But I really believe, and I think those that aren't on the woke right are saying, let the free markets dictate. Jimmy Kimmel's ratings were already going through, through the toilet. So why not just let him free fall instead of having to cancel him? I think a lot of people that I guess aren't on the rogue white are just saying, let the free market dictate him itself, you know, but then again, as someone the woke right are like they want to use their muscle power, and if they can cancel, well, so can we. And then they use it the second way, and that is a label used inside the right to police deviation. You question unlimited aid to foreign allies like Israel, then you're the woke right. You think corporations shouldn't be punished for speech, then you're the woke right. It became a boundary marker, almost like the rhinos really want to sharpen who's a rhino and who's not. This phrase entered right wing discourse around the mid 2023 and picked up steam during the speaker fight and exploded in 2024 over foreign policy, corporate speech debates, and by early 2025, it's everywhere, especially lately when it comes to Israel. Anybody that seems to criticize Israel is considered the woke right. So when people ask, is MAGA splitting? They're really asking, are these fractions coexisting under a big tent or heading for divorce? So I just wanted to map it out. What are the big kind of 5 fractions? And I kind of broke it down as the economy, culture. You have your populism, your market, and then people that are libertarians, and then those ones are authoritarian. So the first thing I want to talk about is the populists, those that are saying America first. And who are they? They want trade protection, border enforcement, reindustrialization. Tariffs are good. Elites sold us out. Bring the factories back home. And who are the heroes to this? Well, you have Trump, JD Vance, of course, and some Rust Belt House members, certain nationalists, and think tanks. And then you have the voter appeal, which are appealing to the blue collar workers, the Great Lakes swing voters, people who feel globalization gutted their towns. And the strength to this is they have the electoral juice in the purple states. These voters moved in 2016 and haven't left. But the blind spot here is the inflation. If tariffs spike, consumer prices and wages don't catch up, this coalition gets squeezed. And then you have like the business sector where the businesses and the chamber conservatives, these guys are pro market, donor friendly, institutionalists. They want lower taxes, stable trade, minimal regulation, not big on culture wars, prefer economic growth to fights. And who are these guys? They're the old guard senators, some governors, the Chamber of Commerce, Wall Street donors. And their voter appeal is the suburban professionals, small business owners who want predictability, affluent Republicans, uncomfortable with populist volatility. Their strength is money and organization. They fund campaigns and build infrastructure. But the blind spot here is the base thinks they're out of touch. They've lost the messaging war in 2016 and haven't fully recovered. And then you have the national conservatives, the NatCons. And who are they? They use state power to fight the culture wars. They regulate big tech, restrict certain speech, fight woke capital with government muscle. And that has been a lot of the DEI stuff that has come through, and the transgender, which I think was definitely essential. And I think a lot of people kind of came together on those subjects. And they believe that the market is not going to save us. It's this they're powerful, and it's the will of the government. And some of the states like that is like Ron DeSantis, and it's very much the Florida model. Some younger senators like Claremont Institute types, and then the European influenced intellectuals. Their vote appeals are the parents furious about schools conservatives, tired of losing people who want the right to fight back. Their strength is they have clear enemies, clear tactics. It feels like winning a governor bans something, they've won their point. And the blind spot here is that the libertarians and constitutionalists hate it. You're just the left with different targets. And then you have the libertarian right. They want free speech, they want free market purists, minimal state intervention. Corporations can do what they want. Government shouldn't pick winners or punish losers. And some of the heroes here are like the Rand Pauls, some tech entrepreneurs, younger voters skeptical of authority. The voter appeal is the tech workers, the younger independents, people allergic to government overreach from any direction. And some of their strengths is the philosophically consistent, appeals to people sick of tribalism. But the blind spot here is seen as naive. The left uses power, so why shouldn't you? And then we have this growing section here, and that's the religious value conservatives. And I'd say like they're the Charlie Kirk, kind of like Charlie Kirkbride, Turning Point, those guys. And it seems to, ever since his assassination, this kind of sector has definitely seen an uptick. And so who are they? They're against abortion, school choice, parental rights, all about family policy, motivated by moral clarity, not necessarily economics or foreign policy. They are pro-life groups, church networks, homeschool coalitions, and some Southern Midwestern officials. And their voter appeal is the church-going families, suburban moms, focus on schools and safety, older voters with traditional values. Their strength is reliable turnout, and that post-Dobbs energy is real. Their blind spots, though, in the general election math, overreach on abortion and the right winnable races in 2022 and 2024, most voters didn't live in one box. A small business owner might be a populist on trade, libertarian on speech, and religious on abortion. That's the coalition. It works. And then until it doesn't. So this is where all the friction has started. So I want to get like a concrete, and what do critics mean when they say the woke right? You know, they left boycott companies over political donations. Now the right boycotts Bud Light, Target, Disney. Critics say you're just cancel culture with a MAGA hat. Supporters say, no, we're using market power. You taught us the game. And then you have the purity test on foreign policy. You know, a Republican voter for Ukraine aid immediately there's primary threats, social media, you know, they just want to go after them with social media, calling them warmongers, globalist, you know, woke right. And critics say you're shrinking the tent. Reagan, welcome debate. And supporters say Reagan's dead. The donor class wants endless war. We're correcting that. And then you have the corporate speech and the DEI policing. A conservative think tanker says maybe we shouldn't use state power to punish corporations for speech. We don't like it. And then it gets called the woke right for defending corporate autonomy. And the critics say you're prioritizing libertarian theory over real world power. And supporters say you're prioritizing power over principles. That's actually what the left does. Pro discipline camp message: coherence wins elections. Movements need boundaries. The left didn't win by being a big tent, they won by disciplining their base and using institutions. If we want power, we need unity. And then you have the anti discipline camp. You're shrinking the coalition right when you need to grow. Independents don't want purity tests. You're incentivizing grift. Whoever yells traitor loudest gets clicks and donations, not whoever persuades voters. And here's the thing: both arguments are internally consistent. And that's why the right is so bitter. It's not good versus evil, it's two theories of power. And the stakes are real because there are 5 key issues where these theories really collide. And I just wanted to go over them. One of the big flashpoints here is the tariffs and inflation. Populists want tariffs to promote American jobs. Business conservatives warn consumer prices spike, and voters blame it on us, not China. And according to a March 2025 Wall Street Journal poll, 62% of Republicans support aggressive tariffs. But among independents, it's only 38%. If inflation ticks back up and swing voters connect it to trade policy, populists and chamber types are on a collision course. The tension is the blue collar protection versus suburban pocketbooks. Both vote Republican, one has to lose. And then you have the big tech regulations. The NatCons want to regulate big tech to stop censorship or break up monopolies. Libertarians say the government overreach builds alternatives. DeSantis style laws in Florida tried to force platforms to host speech. Legal fights ensued. Half the right cheered and half the right freaked out. The question is big tech a utility that needs regulation or a private sector protected by the First Amendment? Israel has taken over all the big tech, and that's through Oracle and a lot of the Instagrams and the megas and Google's. Israel has infiltrated all of that. So, and even Netanyahu himself has said that that they've taken over TikTok, that he wants to make sure that there is censorship so people only get the right information. And a lot of the people on the right are totally against that free speech and being muzzled if you have anything negative to say against Israel. So there's no real compromise here. You either regulate or you don't, and each side thinks the other is betraying conservatism. And then you have the abortion post-Dobbs. Religious conservatives want federal limits, 15 weeks, maybe less. Libertarians and some populists say we want Dobbs. Leave it to the states. Don't hand Democrats a gift issue. According to an October 2024 AP poll, only 36% of Americans support abortion in most cases. In swing states, ballot measures protecting abortion access won even when Republicans won the same states. So what's the math here? The overreach cost Senate and House seats in 2022. It cost ballot measures in red states in 2023. How much will the religious wing compromise to win? I think that they need to keep abortion out of their politics 100%. Leave it between the doctor and the woman. That's it. I don't think abortion should be in any political arena at all. If you're a doctor and you don't want to perform an abortion because it's against your values, then you don't do it. And if you're a woman that, it's against your values, then you don't do it, even if it's compromises, what you think is your well-being. I think that the abortion issue 100% needs to stay out of politics. And if it is going to be in politics, sending it to the states was the best thing that could have ever happened. But I think the right, if you want to fracture the right even more, is just to bring abortion issue back. They can't do it. They're already divided on, my next thing, foreign aid, and this literally is the loudest one. The populist base No more blank checks to Ukraine. America first. Old guard hawks. Abandoning allies is suicide. Mega donors with foreign policy concern freeze funding if the party moves to isolationist. Back in February 2025, the Pew poll said that 58% of Republicans said the US is giving too much aid to Ukraine. But among Republicans 65 plus, it's only 41%. And that age split, donor split, grassroots versus establishment. Israel is slightly less divisive, but even there, younger conservatives are asking, why are we prioritizing this over our own border? Israel is the fracture line. The issue separates donors from voters more than any other issue. And that is really, again, that is the biggest issue. And I think, especially with the younger donors, I'm not donors, younger voters, they are over and over seeing the effects of Israel and of Gaza, the destruction that's going on there. They don't want to spend their tax money going towards Israel. And they're losing the 30 and below age group hands down, and they are starting to lose the 30 and above age group. So I don't know, maybe they have the 65 and above that's still on board, but Israel is losing ground with steam. And if the Trump administration wants to keep pouring money into this, I think there's going to be a huge, huge divide. And then that brings me to like the loyalty test and the influencer wars, because that's certainly heating up. And the one person I don't get who has all this influence is Laura Loomer. You know, she's hunting for disloyalty to Trump. I have no idea why this woman has any kind of platform whatsoever. I don't get it at all. But probably because I don't listen to her, because she just sounds very annoying to me. And I see her post on X, and it's just nonstop going against. It's almost like the sibling, they're fighting with each other instead of kind of going for the better good. It's like, why let people have their thoughts? If someone's against Israel, just let them have their thought. Who cares? You're pro-Israel, go be pro-Israel, but don't attack. It's almost like they go for the jugular. She goes for the jugular. All these people that have anything negative to say against Israel, like, she goes for the jugular. It's just not how you get along in a marriage, in any kind of group situation. Like, you just can't let people have their thoughts, and if your thought is better and you have a better way, then people are going to follow you. Don't be worried about the person that's going against what you believe. So I just, like I said, I don't get that woman at all. you know and they are literally like eating their own daily. If someone doesn't pass the purity test on one issue, boom, they're called grifters. They're controlled opposition. You're the woke right. It's not just online. Primary challenges are increasingly about who's more loyal, not who can win the general. That's how you get weaker general election candidates. The case studies say that late 2024, a sitting congressman with 90% conservative voting record got primaried because he voted for a debt ceiling deal. Their primary challenger ran entirely on he betrayed us, lost the general by 3 points to a Democrat in a district Trump won by 7. The feedback loop here is like influencers profit from outrage. Candidates adopt their rhetoric to survive primaries. The general electorate sees chaos. But here's the twist. After a real external crisis, say an economic shock or a major scandal from the left, especially the way they reached the Charlie Kirk assassination, the right does rally. Briefly, these 5 fractions, remember, they hate Democrats more than they hate each other. So the question isn't about are their divisions, it's, is their unity emotional or strategic? Emotionally, unity fades fast. Strategic ultimately will last and do the test of time. But and that's where we need to get specific. These 3 scenarios that fracture the coalition, and one is the sharp economic downturn turned to trade policy. If tariffs spike prices, wages stagnate, and swing voters blame the GOP, populists and business conservatives go to war. Donors pull back, candidates distance themselves from populist economics, the base feels betrayed. 2026 midterms become a bloodbath. And if you can see from this graph here, it seems like Trump is having, a really kind of downtrodden on his overall issues, and trade is one of them, immigration, jobs, and economy, it's all on the downswing. And then you have the unpopular federal social policy. A national abortion ban or something close to something like that gets pushed. Swing states, Republicans panic, libertarians revolt. Suburban moms who voted GOP on economic and crime, they flip back. Democrats win the message war. They said states' rights and then they lied. And then you have the foreign policy vote that triggers grassroots backlash. A major Ukraine funding package passes with Republican leadership to support the base, and it explodes. Primary challenges everywhere. The donor versus voter split becomes a chasm. Either the donors leave or the base does. Three conditions that keep this whole thing together, strictly in my opinion, is that they need clear economic wins. If voters feel richer, safer, see jobs coming back, they forgive internal fights. The economy, stupid, still rules. Deliver material gains and ideological purity matters less. And then the message discipline with room for disagreement. Smart coalition management, fight hard in primaries, but unite in generals. Let fractions coexist if they deliver wins in a different district. The Reagan model, 80% friend, not 20% traitor. And then you have the condition number 3 that I see is external enemies, extreme external enemies. Nothing like a common threat. If the left overreaches on speech, on identity politics, on government expansion, the right remembers why they're on the same team. So the bottom line is coalition breaks when internal fights become more important than external victories. They hold when they have their wins are outweighed by their ideological purity. So right now, it's a coin flip right at this moment. If the economy stays stable and the GOP runs disciplined campaigns, they hold the House and add 2 to 3 Senate seats in 2026. But the margin of error is very thin. One major screw up, economic, social, foreign policy, it will definitely flip it. And there's a wild card, a scandal or crisis that drops in October 26th. It's the external left-wing overreach, foreign threat. The right rallies. It's the internal GOP infighting, leadership chaos. And then the coalition cracks. One of the biggest things that I believe is really hurting the MAGA movement is the whole Epstein files. And Trump has still not gotten a handle on this. It seems like all these other things are adding distractions. The Charlie Kirk thing has been a distraction. All this Netanyahu, the Israel thing has been a distraction, Gaza, but we all kind of swing back to it, and we all don't understand why those files have not been released. And then even then the day that Kirk was assassinated, they went and voted that they're not gonna release any files that they do have on Epstein that day, and people missed it because they were all concerned about Charlie Kirk. So I think there's a lot of shady shit that's going down deep inside, and I think those that are in the know are really concerned about why they're not releasing those files, and I think that they believe that they were promised it and they're not gonna get it, and we all don't believe the bullshit that there's nothing to see here, folks. Yeah, and it's just lying. It's just so lying. And to be honest with you, I think the FBI is the whole thing with Charlie Kirk and how he died, and I think it's all a bunch of bullshit as well. And I think people are reading onto that. And you can see here, Trump in 2025, his approval rating has gone down and down. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think partly it is. It's because of the Epstein files is a huge. All roads lead back to Epstein and Israel. Those are the two major things. So, that's what I think is causing the MAGA split, in my opinion. It's Epstein, the economy really hasn't picked up. So, so we'll see if things change. So one of the arguments that are forward is, online fights exaggerate division. So I think a lot of people think that there's going to be a real divide because of that, but I don't think that's true in real life. Twitter isn't real life. Most Republican voters don't follow influencer feuds. They vote on economy, crime, and culture, and not on who said what and about Ukraine funding. The median GOP voter doesn't know what NatCon even means. And then they have, the shared enemies. versus internal rifts. And I think shared enemies definitely outweighs the internal rifts. As long as Democrats exist, the right has an enemy. Tribalism is stronger than ideology. Voters don't split on theory, they split over results. If the GOP delivers wins, this fraction does cannot coexist. They don't care. If they're winning it in their wallet and they see groceries prices going down, gas prices going down, they let those other the ideological theories, they let that go to the wayside because they're winning in their pocketbook. And then you have the coalition tension, which is somewhat normal. Every political coalition has internal debates. Democrats have progressive versus moderates. They still win elections. Republicans can too if they manage it. So, like I said, all these points are very fair. I don't think the split is inevitable, but I do think the margin is very thin. The 2024 election was decided by under 250,000 votes across 3 states. You don't need a huge defection to lose. You just need 2 to 3% of one fraction to sit home or flip it. And I said, like, the independent voters are getting highly underrated. And I think that they are being more affected by this MAGA split than the actual MAGA registered voters. The independents are more to flip-flop than the MAGA. So I think that the independents are really gonna decide the next election, and I think the GOP, in their internal fighting, is gonna sway off a lot of those independents. So we'll see. If I see evidence that swing voters are more tolerant of GOP infighting than I think, or if internal divisions start helping turnout instead of hurting persuasion, I'll change it. But right now, the data says discipline wins and chaos loses. But I could be wrong, and I want to be. But here's the thesis pretty much in one line. The right isn't splitting by accident. It's splitting because 5 fractions are fighting over 2 incompatible theories of power. And 2026 will decide which theory wins. And this isn't hype. It's not online noise. It's real ideological tension over real stakes. Some of these fractions cannot coexist if they push their positions to be logical and at least to a logical end. But coalitions don't break cleanly. They crack slowly, then all at once, or they hold, adapt, and win. So here's my question to you. Do you think that the woke right is a real thing, or is it just a label to shut down debate? And which issue would make you switch parties or sit out? Foreign policy, abortion, economy, loyalty tests? I read every single comment. I'm very interested to hear what you guys have to say. I think it's, like I said, it's very interesting. That's why I kind of wanted to look at all sides of the demise of the Democrats, the independents, and now it's the fracture within the right party and the whole MAGA movement. Like I said, my biggest thing is Israel. They're losing the 30 and under vote, but those 30 and under votes, are they really going to go Democrat? I don't think so. I think they're ideologically, they're more aligned with the right. However, there is definitely causing fractions. And I've heard from a lot of people saying that we need a third party. I think there needs to be a third option because um, going against the right and some of these really strong ideological differences, like going to or staying strong with Israel when they're causing a genocide, yeah, that's not flying with the younger generation. So we'll see. So please like, subscribe, share. Like I said, very interested in your comments. It means a lot, and I've been learning a lot just from what everybody has to say. So thanks, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.